Dear YouTube, I love writing letters, and our great nation Canada boasts a long and proud tradition of polite letter writing. On occasion, I like to look back at old correspondence with pen pals and reminisce. One correspondence I received from the very institution mandated with delivering my mail was one of those letters urging me to cease and desist with some small matter of infringement on intellectual property. Specifically, they requested I not mention their Crown Corporation when I advertised JDMs. You can infer that this is the modern-day iteration of the Royal Mail, founded on our soil in the 1700s. They don't like me using their name in the context of the cars that I sell to the people who work for them. So with that in mind, this video is going to look at a group of cars that are great for use in certain situations that involve frequent stops to interact with small receptacles positioned on the shoulders of roads, adjacent to properties owned by people that expect to receive various items delivered on a daily basis. In a bygone era, this unnamed Crown Corporation had such clout that it could commission its own fleets of right-hand drive vehicles. Rural contractors can choose their own vehicles now within certain parameters. Well, the good news is you don't necessarily have to make your frequent stops in an Italian sports wagon. When selecting your own car, there are options.
No.
Over several years, I've imported a raft of right-hand drive, four-wheel drive, and all-wheel drive cars that are suitable for frequent stops to interact with roadside receptacles. These import vehicles have ranged from nearly indistinguishable from domestically available cars to obviously unusual and foreign market. But the most popular cars are those that are nearly completely interchangeable with domestically available vehicles, such as the Honda CRV. Driving a like-new right-hand drive vehicle certainly makes for easier interactions at roadside, whatever those interactions might be. I'm going to focus on three cars that make good delivery vehicles because of their mechanical and cosmetic compatibility with vehicles already on our market. There's the 2000 RD1 facelift Honda CRV, an early 2000s RD5 Honda CRV, and a 2001 Nissan X-Trail. This red RD1 Honda CRV is a 2000 model year with the low intake manifold, high compression B20Z engine with overdrive. These are great simple vehicles to own and work on, but as they age it's becoming harder to find low kilometer clean examples in Japan with any sort of consistency. The B20 engine is a dual cam interference non-VTEC 2-liter 4-cylinder putting out about 147 horsepower at 6300 RPM for a vehicle that weighs in at 1420 kilograms. This one at quite low kilometers. I usually opt to change the timing belt on these B20s not because a mileage interval has been met, but because it's a 16-year-old vehicle and still running the original timing belt. The facelift CRVs offer slightly better fuel economy and more power than the earlier B20B pre-1999 CRVs with 127 horsepower. Driving the RD1 is reasonably comfortable, though you do get a lot of feedback from the road and cabin noise from the engine. Honda's real-time four-wheel drive uses a dual-pump rear differential. When pumps feel a pressure loss, it indicates a loss of traction in the front. They engage the rear wheels. I've occasionally felt CRVs give a slight crab walk as the rear wheels kick in. Otherwise, the four-wheel drive system is quite competent and lightweight. A completely redesigned CRV appeared in 2001. These CRVs are only a couple of centimeters wider and longer than the old one and 40 kilograms heavier. The Japanese version has a K20 engine, where K24 was offered in North America. The K-Series is a nice update on the B-Series. Albeit slightly more involved, the displacement remains 2 liters, but the K-Series is a dual overhead cam with exhaust VTEC making about 150 horsepower at 6500 RPM. It has a timing chain rather than a belt. It's compatible with the EP3 SIR Civic. The dual-pump rear diff four-wheel drive remains essentially unchanged. The RD5 generation feels a bit more refined on the road, with less road and engine noise, less feedback from the road, and what feels like a more responsive throttle. The RD5 weighs in at 1460 kilograms. The cabin is quieter, the trim materials feel heavier and sturdier and a bit more substantial, and seem to be better at dampening sound and road noise. Both the CRVs have a nice, wide, even power band with no real hiccups or sweet spots. Inside the RD5 there is a fair bit of updating as well. The raised dash shift is ergonomically convenient for somebody stacking cargo on the front passenger seat and reaching across the car. The seating position feels more raised than the old model. The rear seats fold forward like the old model for a nice long flat cargo space. The CRVs have nothing cluttering their floor thanks to the shifters being raised onto the dash or steering column, and the tray table that sits between the front seats will fold away, offering a path between front seats to the rear. Last in my lineup I have a Nissan X-Trail. I brought this car in because in many respects it's similar to a CRV in displacement, power, dimensions, four-wheel drive options, and cargo capacity. CRVs though have seen a surge in price corresponding to their popularity here, which the Xtrail has not matched. As such, it was cheaper to buy this Xtrail despite it being similar in condition and kilometers to the CRVs. The JDM Xtrail is cosmetically identical to the Canadian market counterpart, but under the hood it gets a bit different. The JDM has a 4-speed overdrive transmission, which given the age of the car is a safer bet than the Canadian CVT option. The engine is a QR20DE, which is a 16-valve, 140 horsepower, 4-cylinder dual overhead cam with variable valve timing. I'll generously describe it as adequately powered. There's a GT model Xtrail with an SR20 VET and twice the power at 280 horsepower, but being the VET engine is completely unique to the JDM Xtrail GT and not found in any other Nissan model, I didn't think this was a good idea to import, with daily delivery purposes in mind. I quite like the interior of this car with its drink coolers and center cluster layout. It does have a center console shifter eating up floor space, but it's fairly low and forward between the seats. The Xtrail has a driver input 4x4 system with a transfer lock, so you can drive this car in two-wheel drive mode and engage 4x4 as needed, unlike the CRVs. Driving the Xtrail is more comparable to an early RD1 CRV than the more refined RD5 CRV. There are advantages to each of these three cars. I think the import cost of the Xtrail is its biggest selling point. The simplicity of the RD1 CRV makes this a good car, and the relative luxury of the RD5 CRV is a major positive. Of course, there's a whole world of small, all-wheel drive crossovers and SUVs to choose from, but these three are certainly among the most practical and economical I've seen. If you're one of those brave people out there delivering mail every day for that unmentioned Crown Corporation and are on the hunt for a new car, then I hope this video gave you some good ideas, and I would be happy to help with an import.